Hey YouTube, Untamed here. So behind me is a brand new 2024 Toyota Corolla Cross. This is the XLE all-wheel drive version, the non-hybrid version, sporting the 2-liter 4-cylinder powered platform here. Today I'm pretty excited to get behind the wheel and share that experience with you guys. Give you a full walk around of the exterior, the interior of course, give you my top 3 likes, my top 3 dislikes, and I'll wrap up the video with what I recommend buying one if you have an opportunity to. So stick with me. Be sure to reach out to Johnny here at Ken Garff Toyota here in Cheyenne, Wyoming. He'll take good care of you as he always has for my family. So we'll start with a walk around of the exterior of this Corolla Cross XLE. The paint color is blue crushed metallic. I appreciate it because it's pretty unique. You don't see this too often on too many other types of vehicles and other vehicle manufacturers. So I appreciate that. This does have LED headlights and tail lights. It does have front and rear parking assist, so you get little sensors here that can indicate that. This does have Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, which is very nice. As you'll notice, a lot of safety features are still included, which is really nice at this price point. We have some 18-inch alloy wheels. I think they look okay. But the overall shape of it, you know, it's a subcompact SUV. I mean, most subcompact SUVs look like this nowadays. So nothing too crazy, nothing to write home to mom about by any means. A little bit of curvature up here in the front fender, a little bit of a design cue. Some fender flares, or at least kind of more of a hard plastic fender trimming, I should say, which is nice because that will certainly prevent any kind of rusting or rock chips that would normally take place right here, of course. It does have a driver's side gas cap door there. Kind of unique. It says Corolla Cross. I'm not sure if you can actually see it. It says it right here. There you go. That's kind of neat. Always appreciate when companies provide that attention to detail. Kind of little Easter eggs, if you will. Same up here. This does have, obviously you see the blacked out roof rails. This one did come spec'd with the convenience package, which does include that sunroof there, as well as the electronic rear hatch lift. Really outside of that convenience package and all-weather floor mats, those are the only additional add-ons for this particular model. Look at this little exhaust pipe. I guess you wouldn't expect anything more than that, I suppose. So overall, not a bad looking rear end. Again, nothing to write home to mom about by any means though. Let's look at the window sticker real quick. So we are looking at just over $32,000, $32,274, and like I mentioned, very minimal additional add-ons. So the MSRP with original equipment is just over $29,000. And you see that convenience package and the all-weather floor mats there, the only additions. Bringing it to that. Show you over here the details of the color. I do appreciate the fact that it is still built within the US. That's always nice. Here's your crash test ratings. And of course, feel free to pause on this if you'd like. Because this is not the hybrid version, we just do have the standard 2-liter 4-cylinder engine tied to that CVT like we talked about. But right there is still plenty good for most people, right? Especially at this price point. 30 miles to the gallon is plenty good. All right. It does have blind spot monitors within the mirrors there. That's a nice touch, of course. But yeah, I think that about wraps up the exterior. Let's go ahead and pop on the inside. So we'll start with the key fob, a pretty bare bones basic, very light, hard plastic example here, but again, you wouldn't expect anything else, of course, for this price point. It does have keyless entry here where you can press right here and it'll lock, or just put your hand in here with the key in your pocket and it'll unlock. As we get in here, I'll take a second, kind of pause on this for you. I always appreciate looking at this type of stuff. Where are the parts and components manufactured and produced? What countries do they come from? Looks like 60% come from the US here, 25% from Japan, And I mean, those are the major components anyway that they have to assess. So I always like looking at that. Appreciate the fact that it hasn't been outsourced to a cheaper labor country like Mexico. We saw it with the Toyota Tacoma. That disappoints me personally. So I like that. Japan and US, style points for that. Standard sunroof up here, tilt moonroof. We have that 8-inch infotainment. I'll fire it up here in a second and show you what that looks like. Very minimal amount of piano gloss black in here, which I appreciate that because, well, this stuff here, if you even look at it funny, you're going to get fingerprints on it, but a very minimal amount surrounding it. Kind of extends a little bit there. I do like this. It's pretty streamlined looking. I think that looks neat. Lots of hard plastic, as you can imagine, for the price point. You're not buying this to woo your friends by any means. But personally, I do like the two-tone here. This is a soft text material here for the seats, kind of like what you found in the 5th generation Toyota 4Runner. But I like that two-tone. Let me know what you think of that. That looks pretty nice. That soft text material continues onto the armrest here. Pretty small one, but your charging ports are within there. 2 cup holder here. Your electronic parking brake, traction control up there, automatic start on and off, and your heated seats there, with another charging port, USB-C there. I appreciate the intuitiveness of this, very simplistic design language. I have always grown to appreciate that with Toyota in particular. All right, let me show you the back seat, and then we'll fire it up. Let's hit unlock. Here's our back seat cup holder here in the door, the little cubby there. More the might be, pretty sure it's plastic, but it looks like metal anyway. Oh, a decent amount of space back here. So right up there is my seating position at 5'9". Don't mind the pants, yikes. But I have maybe, 4 or 5 inches here, me sitting just perfectly upright. Not a whole lot of room above my head back here, but I fit just fine. And these seats are plenty comfortable. All right, well, let me show you the cargo space, then we'll fire it up. It does have the electronic rear hatch. More of that extended all-weather floor matting out back here. That looks good with the Corolla Cross written out. I appreciate that it kind of extends deeper on the sides here. That just kind of adds more space, more room for you to throw stuff. It does have a tonneau cover you can pull off and insert here in the sides. But yeah, not bad. And here is your close of the hatch. All right, let's go ahead and hop in. We'll fire it up. So behind the wheel of the Toyota Corolla Cross, foot on the brake, push to start right here. That brings to life the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine here and lights up the infotainment and, of course, the 7-inch digital gauge display and the 8-inch infotainment over here. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the placement of the buttons here. Everything is pretty intuitive. I would have preferred to have these be just larger buttons here because they're kind of small and integrated well. I'll kind of give you a closer look there. So these right here, would have preferred if those were larger. Maybe even a hard plastic buttons would have made more sense in my opinion. But overall, pretty easy to navigate, and I appreciate that about it. Just your volume control up here, one knob up on the infotainment screen, which is all right. A very narrow gear selection here, right? So normally this is just a little bit wider, but given the size, the overall size of the Toyota Corolla Cross here, it makes sense why it's so narrow. Give a little bit more room for the seats themselves anyway. I'll pop the hood. I'll show you underneath and give you an idea what that 4-cylinder engine looks like. See if we can do it with one hand. So it does not have an automatic strut, so I'm holding it manually right here. We have the manual rod to actually hold it up. But overall, I appreciate the accessibility of everything. A little bit more wires than what I would like, but there's even more wires, of course, in the hybrid option. So overall, everything is pretty accessible, and from a mechanic's perspective, that's always a good thing, of course. All right, let's go ahead and get behind the wheel and I'll give you an idea of what it's like to drive this Corolla Cross. And this is, no kidding, my first impressions of it. Forgive me, it's pretty bright over here with the sun on this side, but you know, we're not cranking a whole lot of power out of this 2-liter 4-cylinder platform, 169 horsepower and 150 foot-pounds of torque. So definitely nothing to write home to mom about by any means, but you don't buy it for that, right? Even this 2-liter with combined to the CVT here gets pretty good fuel economy, right? We'll talk through more what that looks like as we move forward. There is that hybrid option that a lot of people often opt for, but with a price tag just over $32,000, it doesn't feel like a bad idea. It doesn't feel like a bad deal whatsoever. You know, definitely a lot of plastics in here, a lot of just very cheap feeling material, but you would expect that at the price point of $32,000. As we get on the freeway here and see what this 169 horsepower feels like. All right. The blue crushed metallic paint though to this is pretty sleek. I'm a fan of that as I look over the hood here. So gave it maybe half throttle right there. It does kind of sound like a wind-up toy to some degree. All right, probably a 3/4 throttle at this point. Try not to get hit. Pretty comfortable, easy drive around town, be bopping around corners around these roundabouts when we're not trying to get hit by a Jeep Wrangler or Gladiator there. For me, getting used to that CVT is going to take a little bit of time. Personally, I've never owned a CVT before, so not to say they're bad, but I know a lot of people have their own personal gripes on them too. Toyota and Subaru, they've gotten pretty good at them over the years, worked out some of the bugs and kinks that we found within them in early generations anyway. It's easier to work on than the hybrid variant, right? I mean, to me, the hybrid variants just have a lot more going on, a lot more wires underneath that hood. It's just a lot more complex overall. Whereas this, you know, just it feels a little bit more simplistic. And for what you would want this vehicle for, you know, commuting back and forth to work every day, it feels like it was scratch the itch just fine with the 30 miles to the gallon that it does get. And you can actually pop the hood and not be totally overwhelmed by all the wires anyway. You know, with that CVT, you do get a decent amount of acceleration off the line, you know, not having to go through gears at the low end there. So I do feel, although it's only 150 foot-pounds of torque, you do feel that power come on pretty quickly at the lower speeds. Obviously, once you get up to 40 or 50 miles per hour, you're going to start pittering out pretty quick. You know, pretty tight in the corners. Obviously, there's a low-speed roundabout there, but pretty well planted feeling. You don't feel body roll or anything like that like you would find with a 4Runner per se or a truck. So definitely that car-like feel in a subcompact SUV. Yeah, overall it is a pleasant place to be, especially for the price point. I know I kind of keep coming back to that, but there are really not too many options out there at $32,000 that make you feel this way while driving anyway, right? So I mean, you can go get a used vehicle, and again, you're going to be running the risk of what has that vehicle been through, you know, how many miles are on it. Whereas this, brand new, comes with a factory warranty, offering you that peace of mind, and already a ton of safety features, plenty of safety features that allow you to drive this with full confidence. You know, the fact that this one is all-wheel drive is certainly how I would spec it. I don't think I would get the hybrid personally. I've owned a couple of hybrid options, and I just don't love how synthetic they feel, and purposely so, I would get the cheaper option here without the hybrid battery pack strapped to it. It just feels more raw, and although it's not fast by any means, not a whole lot of power, I love the rawness of it overall. All right, let's talk through my top 3 likes of this 2024 Toyota Corolla Cross XLE. Number 1, I appreciate the simplicity of it, right? This really is true to Toyota's form, in my opinion. Very simplistic. Everything within here is very easy to navigate, very intuitive. I don't mind the hard plastics, right? You know, at this price point, it just makes sense. It's nothing more than what it needs to be. You know, it's a great daily driver, great fuel economy. It just works. Number 2, kind of already alluded to it, it would be the price point. At just over 32 grand, there's not many options at that price point nowadays. And this here is very safe, a ton of safety features included within it, that fuel economy like I mentioned. That price point just makes sense, and that's why we see these actually selling decently. Much better than a new Toyota Tundra, much better than a new Toyota Land Cruiser and the Tacoma. This here is actually selling because people can afford it. They can afford the monthly payments on this Corolla Cross here. And number 3, this may fall flat with some of you, but I personally really appreciate the fact that Toyota did not move this, outsource it to Mexico for production, right? They've done that. They've done it with the Tacoma, and they're going to do that even more moving forward. I appreciate the fact that they've kept production here within the U.S., right? Between the U.S. and Japan for parts. I like that, and I really appreciate Toyota for that. So those are my top 3 likes. Now for the part where many of you want to beat me up. My top 3 dislikes of the Corolla Cross here. Number 1, for me personally, it's just too boring, right? It's too much like all the competition. Every subcompact SUV looks just like this. But again, I'll speak out of both sides of my mouth on purpose here. At that price point, you really can't complain. And when you combine it with a great fuel economy, again, you just can't complain too much about it. But for me, personally, I would like to try to find something that's a little bit more exciting. The blue metallic crush here, the blue crush metallic, paint color definitely helps a little bit. But for me personally, it's just too boring, right? Number 2 would be the CVT. That transmission there, personally, I just have a hard time getting used to that. And it feels a little synthetic as you're driving down the road. Number 3, the wind noise. As I'm on the freeway there, the wind noise that I hear within the cabin is much louder than most vehicles I've driven. Definitely more than most Toyotas too. So those are my top 3 dislikes. All right, let's talk about resale value. So looking at these and looking at the last couple of years anyway, it's still a relatively new vehicle, the Corolla Cross. But when you look at it, they're only losing about 15 to 20% of the resale value within that first year and a half of ownership. That's generally putting 15 to 25,000 miles on it. So that, compared to the competition anyway, is actually pretty good. So it actually maintains Toyota's reputation of having good residual value. It's not bad, and I wouldn't not buy it for that reason. So I'll wrap up the video with, would I recommend buying this particular 2024 Toyota Corolla Cross XLE if you have an opportunity to? I would say yes, especially if it's going to be like a first vehicle for your teenager. Personally, obviously, you would maybe try to go a little bit cheaper than $32,000, but if you are able to buy this for your young teenager getting behind the wheel, I love it because it is affordable, right, for a new vehicle. Let me make that clear. But B, and most importantly, the safety features within it. The Toyota Safety Sense 3.0, all of the parking sensors throughout it, the airbag, SRS airbag system, it's a very safe vehicle. It has great crash test ratings. For those reasons alone, I do think it's a really good idea. And when you combine that with the phenomenal fuel economy, especially of the hybrid version, but here even with 30 miles to the gallon, it just makes sense. The resale value, not bad whatsoever, like we just talked about. So why not? Why not get the Corolla Cross? As always, guys, I sincerely appreciate you taking the time to tune in to these videos. If you appreciate this type of content, these more in-depth reviews, please consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot, and it certainly doesn't go unnoticed. Until next time.